The Jinn's Shadow. The First Veil. Written by Mozhiarasu. Chapter 1. The Shadows That Bind. The doorbell shrieked, shattering the stillness of the night. Arasu jolted awake, his threadbare sheets tangled around his legs like a snare. The digital clock on his nightstand pulsed 2:17 a.m. in angry red, a reminder that the darkness outside was about to seep into his life. 3 years as a private detective had honed his instincts, but midnight knocks still made his gut twist with anticipation. He staggered to the door, squinting through the peephole. Inspector Gokul stood haloed under the flickering porch light, his uniform crisp, his face carved from stone. The only sign of humanity was the faint tremble of his hand on the doorframe. "Come on, Arasu, we have a case," Gokul rasped, his voice like gravel underfoot. No greeting, no apology for the ungodly hour, just a stark summons to follow him into the darkness. Arasu pulled on yesterday's shirt, the scent of clove cigarettes and fried takeout clinging to the fabric like a bad omen. He trailed Gokul to the black Mahindra idling at the curb, its headlights slicing through the fog like a scythe. As they sped away from the curb, the night air bit Arasu's lungs, heavy with the scent of wet earth and decay. Monsoon winds rattled the power lines overhead, casting eerie shadows on the deserted streets. Somewhere in the maze of cramped apartment blocks, a stray dog howled, its mournful cry echoing through the silence. Gokul's driving was aggressive, the dar surging through the empty streets like a predator. Arasu cracked a window, but the silence thickened, a palpable presence that pressed against his skin. "You know what my ma used to say?" Arasu ventured, trying to break the tension. "Street dogs bark at air, they've seen a ghost. Bark at shadows, death's close." Gokul's jaw pulsed, his eyes locked on the road ahead. A pack of strays erupted from an alley, yowling as the dar sped past. Arasu watched them shrink in the side mirror, a shiver running down his spine. "Coincidence, eh?" he muttered, but Gokul's silence was a palpable thing, a wall of stone that Arasu couldn't breach. He tilted his head, studying Gokul's profile. Moonlight caught the sweat sheening the inspector's neck, the tremor in his hands. This wasn't the man who'd laughed through a shootout last Diwali, blood streaming from a grazed shoulder. This Gokul looked haunted. "What's chewing your brain, YR?" Arasu pressed, trying to keep his tone light. "You forget how to talk, or—" The dar swerved violently, tires screeching as Gokul avoided a crumpled bicycle in the road. For a heartbeat, Arasu thought he'd finally snap, yell, curse, anything. But the inspector just accelerated, his knuckles bone-white on the wheel. Arasu leaned back, pulse strumming in his ears. Whatever waited at the crime scene had clawed the words out of Gokul's throat. And worse, it had his friend terrified. The mansion loomed before them, its turrets and spires reaching toward the fog-shrouded sky like skeletal fingers. 6 black Ford SUVs crouched in the crescent-shaped driveway, their license plates gleaming under the security lights. 666. Arasu counted them twice, a shiver running down his spine. 6 cars, 6 plates, 666. The number prickled at his neck like a spider's legs. "Rich client or devil's garage?" he muttered, but Gokul was already striding toward the entrance, his flashlight cutting through the fog like a scythe. Inside, the air tasted metallic, sharp with the tang of ozone and something older, myrrh and burned hair. The foyer's walls shimmered, not with ordinary glass, but with hexagonal panels etched in spiraling symbols. Arasu brushed a finger against one, and it hummed faintly, a subsonic vibration that crawled into his molars. Not glass, obsidian. Gokul moved like a sleepwalker, his boots echoing too loudly in the vaulted silence. Arasu lingered, drawn to the artifacts lining the halls. A bronze hand of glory with candle wax claws, a taxidermied owl whose glass eyes tracked him, a framed scroll linked in a language that made his vision blur. "Sanskrit, no older," he whispered, the letters twisted like serpents, their secrets whispering in his ear. Arasu. Gokul stood rigid at the end of the corridor, backlit by a flickering chandelier. "This way." The room stank of cordite and spoiled milk. A man lay sprawled on a Persian rug, his silk robe splayed open to reveal a hairless chest. A Colt 1911 gleamed in his right hand, barrel still kissed by gun smoke. Arasu crouched, tilting his head. "Left-handed shooter," he said, "but the gun's in his right. And look." He pointed to the man's temple, nose stippling. "Someone pressed the muzzle after he died." Gokul said nothing. His flashlight trembled slightly, casting jumpy shadows. Arasu stood, scanning the room. Blood spatter on the ceiling, a toppled chair too far from the body, and the portrait. It dominated the north wall. A life-sized oil painting of a man in 19th century British cavalry uniform. His eyes were polished jet, too glossy, too alive. The plaque beneath read LT, Reginald Bamfabet, 1876. Bamfabet. Arasu breathed. The name slithered out unbidden. Gokul made a sound, a stifled whimper. Arasu stepped closer to the portrait. The eyes shifted. Not a trick of the light. The pupils contracted, following him. Cold sweat snaked down his spine. "You know this name?" Arasu said, not turning around. Silence. Then, the click of a safety. He spun. Gokul stood with his service revolver drawn, not aimed at Arasu, but at the portrait. His face was a mask of pure dread. "He's here," Gokul whispered, his first words since the car. A floorboard creaked overhead. Both men froze. Thud, thud, thud. Footsteps descended the staircase just beyond the room. Slow, deliberate. Gokul backed toward the door, gun now trained on the hallway. "We need to leave, now." Arasu didn't argue. As they fled, he glanced back. The portrait's lips curled in a smile it hadn't worn before. "We're not done here," Arasu whispered to himself, his eyes locked on the portrait's smile. With that, they vanished into the fog, leaving behind the mansion's dark secrets, and the haunting smile of LT, Reginald Bamfabet. As they sped away in the dark, the fog seemed to swallow them whole. Arasu's heart still pounded from the adrenaline rush. "What just happened back there?" he asked Gokul, but the inspector's face was set in stone. The silence between them was oppressive, heavy with unspoken fears. Arasu knew they'd have to confront the darkness head-on if they wanted to survive. The night seemed to stretch out before them like a minefield, waiting to be navigated, and Arasu knew he'd follow Gokul into the heart of darkness, no matter the cost. As they fled the mansion, the fog seemed to swallow them whole. Arasu's heart still pounded from the adrenaline rush. They sped away in the dark, the darkness outside pressing in around them like a physical force. The windshield wipers screeched in rhythmic sync with the pounding in his chest. Finally, Gokul spoke, his voice low and urgent. "We need to question Madame Delacroix. She might know something about the murders." The mansion's lights receded into the distance as they drove back to the Delacroix estate. The woman sat coiled in a velvet armchair, her porcelain skin tinged blue by the flickering police floodlights outside. The shadows danced on her face like demons. Gokul had draped his jacket over her shoulders, but she shook as if naked to a storm. Arasu noted the details. A diamond pendant shaped like an inverted cross, a scarab ring on her left hand, and a faint smell of sandalwood and sulfur clinging to her hair like a bad omen. "Madame Delacroix," Gokul said, his voice hollow. "Tell him what you told me." She stared at Arasu, her pupils dilated. "You'll think I'm mad." "Try me," Arasu said, kneeling to meet her gaze. He'd learned this from Priya, his late mentor. "I level disarms, dominance reassures." But the air seemed to vibrate with tension. She clutched the jacket tighter. The doorbell rang at 11:30. "Pierre, my husband." He went to answer it. I heard him laugh, say, "Enfin, you're late," like he was expecting someone. Her French accent thickened with distress. Then he screamed. Not pain, terror. A stray dog howled outside, its mournful cry echoing through the night like a death knell. Gokul flinched, his eyes darting toward the sound. Arasu noticed the tension in Gokul's shoulders, the same dread that had driven him to draw his revolver in the mansion. "I ran to the hall," she continued. "The chandelier was swinging, though all windows were closed, and it stood there, tall, but hunched, like its bones didn't fit, skin like wet ash, eyes—" She pressed a fist to her mouth, eyes burning, not fire, black light, like a starless night. Arasu's pulse quickened. The portrait's eyes had gleamed the same void dark. He recalled the way the pupils had contracted, following him. Did it speak? No, it hissed. Not a sound. Inside my head, Le Maître vient. The master comes. She trembled. I locked myself in the bedroom. Pierre begged, Non, pas encore. J obey. Then, the gunshot. Gokul turned abruptly, pacing to the obsidian wall, his reflection warped in the hexagon panels, a reminder of the strange symbols they'd seen in the mansion. The air seemed to grow colder. Madam, Arasu pressed. Why call it a Jinn? She yanked her scarf aside, revealing 3 parallel scratches down her neck, charred at the edges. It left this when I slammed the door. The doctor said chemical burns. I say claws. Arasu leaned closer. The marks matched the hand of Glory's wax talons from the mansion's hall. Did your husband collect antiques? Journals, perhaps? Her breath hitched. How did you? A crash echoed upstairs. Gokul drew his revolver, aiming at the ceiling. We're leaving, now. Madame Delacroix gripped Arasu's wrist. Her ring bit into his skin. Pierre bought a trunk last month. Letters from a British officer, Bamfabet. He said they'd make us immortals. The name hung in the air like a curse. Gokul's gun clattered to the floor, his eyes wide with fear. As they fled the mansion, Arasu couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the portrait's eyes were still trained on them, waiting for them to uncover the secrets of Lt. Reginald Bamfabet. The darkness outside seemed to press in around them, heavy with foreboding. Arasu knew they'd have to confront the darkness head-on if they wanted to survive. The night seemed to stretch out before them like a minefield, waiting to be navigated, and Arasu knew he'd follow Gokul into the heart of darkness, no matter the cost. As they drove away from the mansion, the fog swirled around them, hiding secrets and dangers in its depths. Arasu's instincts screamed that they were just beginning to scratch. The journey continues. Join us in Chapter 2 to uncover more secrets.